Hey guys, this is Madhav and I'm back with another video. This time it's in the subject of auditing. So I'm here to share with you all a few tips and tricks on how I prepared for my CA final auditing exams, and I was not only able to crack it, but I was also able to score an exemption. So this is a quite haunting subject for a lot of us. One, because it's too vast, and two, because it's a theory subject. But trust me friends, it's pretty easy and we can crack it provided we have a lot of efforts put in and a bit of smart work. So let's get started. Firstly, let's break down the entire subject into various chunks. So there is first the standards of auditing, then there's professional ethics, and then there are the other chapters. This is a very broad gauge way of classifying them. You could also subdivide them further, like say grouping company audit and CARO together, or your peer review, quality review together, or audit of banks and insurance company under one bucket, or the forensic, internal management, operation audit, all of those, due diligence under a separate bucket. So yeah, and that's how we have to divide and rule, because otherwise, if you look at the syllabus as a whole, it looks colossal, and it's not nearly even possible to complete it, is what we'd feel. But then if we break it down into smaller chunks, it becomes much easier for us to focus and finish it off. But make sure you're giving equal importance and equal attention to all the chunks. So that's what I've said here. Firstly, split the entire syllabus into various categories and then focus on applying different reading techniques or methodologies that suit each of them. And then do not skip any chapter. Make sure you glance through every chapter at least once or twice before the exams. So unlike the old syllabus or the examination pattern erstwhile, wherein a particular chunk of things was asked together. For example, professional ethics was about 14 to 20 marks, and all the subdivisions of professional ethics came under a single question, and was much simpler for people to just prepare for that and neglect a lot of other chapters. But then now, in the current examination pattern, every question has one subdivision of a professional ethics question, which is mandatory. So you cannot completely omit or neglect professional ethics or other chapters. So the entire question paper pattern is like an eclectic mix of all the chapters, or at least majorly most of the chapters. So do try to make your own notes to summarize the vast content that is there, especially in case of essays or ethics, things like that, because it's much easier for you to revise and recollect in the last moment something that's in your own handwriting or in your own words, rather than reading pre-printed texts or materials. And then do chart out a proper plan for the last day revision, because that last 1 day or 1.5 days can be a game changer, like I always say. So we're all preparing for that 1.5 days, to be honest, because only during that 1.5 days, all we can do is to just revise and glance through. So make sure you have a proper plan all set for that day. Then, okay, this technique did not work out for me, but for people who can't remember stuff or can mug up mnemonics, it is very great if you can create your own mnemonics for the concepts or points that you find it difficult to retain. So that will be a great help, guys. And this is a very important point that I'd like to stress upon. Writing practice is a must for theory subjects. So this is for law or any other theory subjects as well, but specifically for auditing, because it's very vast and it's not that we actually practice writing on a day-to-day basis. But even if you do not do it on a day-to-day basis, I will strongly recommend to take up mock exams and to take up as many mock tests as possible, preferably chapter-wise test series. That is what I did, and that was immense help, because I never had the mood to separately sit and write down whatever I've learned, because that is not my type. So I just rather prefer taking up tests and answering them, and that will give you a lot of scope to analyze yourself and understand where you stand and how much of the content that you actually know and how much you're able to reproduce and how well you're able to word things and mention the keywords and a lot more. So that'll be a revelation of a lot of layers of your own self and your preparation state. So do take up a lot of mock exams. And one other very important thing is do go through the question and answers. I mean, of every chapter, either if you're reading a study material or some particular author's book or a particular faculty's book, you will definitely have question and answers pertaining to that concept or that chapter at the back of it immediately. So then and there, get done with them. Do not procrastinate and push it to the later end, because at the end it will all be piled up. So do not do that. So this is one thing that I mainly wanted to put a separate slide for. Repetition is the key, guys. So there is no way we can retain and remember things, especially for theory chapters, but for using the method of repetition. Just keep repeating things and that will get stuck in your head. So there's a few points that I did. So I'm just sharing with you so that you can use it to repeat your learning and then keep revising. So one thing is to discuss with your friends and keep talking to them about the main sections or the important points, or what those provisions or things intend to convey, just as a common discussion. And then try to recollect things and that you've read from time to time on a regular basis. It can be while you're brushing, bathing, just walking, or just sitting, relaxing, whatever. It might sound silly, but it's actually of great help, guys. Do try to recollect as and when possible of the things that you just learned on regular intervals. Then write down important sections of all clauses of CARO or professional ethics or 3CB in a piece of paper and stick it on the room where you study. That's something I did, and it was very much helpful because I got to look at it on a day-to-day basis, and that really increased my retention capacity as well. Then lastly is to keep listening to video lectures of various faculties that are there on YouTube or any other source of yours, and just try recollecting side by side along with them when you're looking or listening to the videos. Then comes a few tips that I would like to give you for a better paper presentation. So firstly, let's come to the MCQ part. So there is no separate way of preparing for MCQs. I had a lot of people ask me how I prepared for my MCQs. But then I hadn't taken up any separate preparation as such. It is just revision and reading of the concepts and looking into one or two RTPs and MTPs and a couple of past papers on how they've questioned for MCQs. That's all. So now when you're starting the paper, at least this worked for me, start with MCQs. Because you have the reading time, you can read through all the questions and the cases that are given for case-based MCQs also, and then immediately jump into just marking the answers and writing them down. And then after, like say, spending about max to max 30 to 40 minutes on MCQs, you can move into the descriptive section. And when you're reading the case-based MCQs, please do go through the question that's beneath first, and then the case or the paragraph. Else you'll get stuck and you wouldn't know what to search for in the question or in the paragraph. Then start with the question you know the best. This is something I keep reiterating time and again in the descriptive segment. Do start with the questions that you know the best, because the first impression is the best impression. Avoid writing huge paragraphs. Just make sure you stick to small bullet points. And this is the general format in which I've always been answering my auditing answers. So first is the provision or the section or the concept that is being spoken about or is related to the question. Then your analysis or your interpretation of it, wherein you link or correlate that concept with the current scenario that is given in hand. And finally, you conclude. So give the proper conclusion that's appropriate. I will also be showing you my paper and a few answers on how I've written it for you to be able to understand how to present it. So that's when I might mean to say by following a specific format or a proper format while writing your answers for certain areas like that of essays or audit or fiscal laws or that of professional ethics. Lastly, do underline and highlight the keywords in each point. So this is also very, very important, guys. So now I'll just share with you my paper and tell you on how I had attempted it. So this is my paper. This was the first question. I had started with the sixth question. So sixth being the last question, but I started it first because I knew it the best. And trust me, I had scored 11 on 14 in total for this particular question, which is like the highest in comparison to all the other questions that I even attempted. So this is how our paper was. It started with a question on banks, and this was my answer to it. And coming to the ethics answer, okay, so this is what I meant by a proper format, guys. So when writing an answer regarding professional ethics, always make sure you first mention about the clause and then the part and the schedule, on which schedule it is to the Chartered Accountants Act, and then what that particular professional ethics tries to convey is the next part of the body of the content, and then goes your analysis on how you link it with the question in hand, and finally you can conclude stating whether the person, chartered accountant, is guilty or not. So that is how you need to answer. And in case if there is any like repercussions of like a penalty or an imprisonment, you might just be able to mention that as well. There was another question of professional ethics for us. So I will just get to that and show you how I had answered the same. So here it is. Again, if you can see, I've written down what the clause is and then what that clause states in total, and then the exceptions to the clause. This is also there in a lot of clauses. So just in case we can mention that as well. And then how it applies in the current scenario. And lastly, I've given my conclusion to it. So this is how it is. And then there is another thing I'd like to show you all. Whenever there is a question on differentiation, like for example, we had a question to asking us to differentiate between the forensic audit and financial audit. So this is how I did it. And when you're going to bifurcate it or tabulate it this way, or write just small points instead of paragraphs, and yeah, you can also see that I've underlined all the important keywords, like I just mentioned. So when you do this, you are showing that you have a lot of clarity in the content to the examiner, and that helps you in scoring more marks automatically. So I got a 515 for this particular question. So this way, I'm just trying to say that you could answer things in a better fashion and put forth to the examiner that you know the content well. Lastly, I would like to show you how I answer an essay question. So this is a question on a standard of auditing 610. Make sure you always mention the entire full name of the standard whenever it is being asked. So it was essay 610 using the work of internal auditors, and then state what the essay talks about or what it deals with, and then relate it to the particular question, and then talk about how it has to be made to work. So this is pretty much, guys. So if you have any other further queries or clarifications or doubts, please drop an email in the one mentioned in the description, and hope you liked the video and it was helpful. Thank you so very much, and stay tuned for more such videos. Thank you so much, guys, and good luck for your exams. Bye, guys. Good luck.